Hi everybody, it's me, and on today's episode of Why is my hair doing that? No, just kidding. I'm going to talk today about the cookbooks I really liked over the past 4 or 5 months. I have brought some new ones into the collection, and I've also started to use some other ones that I've had for a little while a bit more intensely. So I just wanted to talk about what ones I really loved. There's 5 or 6 of them here, why, and if there's any specific recipes I think that you should cook if I've tried them or not. So the first thing I actually want to give is a slight tip, and this isn't a book per se. This is one of my recipe binders. I've got 2 of them, this one and another one that's much bigger on the shelf. And when I'm going through recipes or I'm trying recipes out, if I really like them, I will photocopy them or print them from the web and keep them in this binder in little Polly Pockets, because I find it's much easier to have in the kitchen. I'm not worried about getting staining ingredients on my lovely expensive cookbooks. You know, if I'm using gochujang or something, I don't want to get it all over the place, or chocolate. Like, for example, this Dulce de Leche David Leibovitz recipe I have made so many times, like over years and years. And if I like the recipe from the book, sometimes I'll photocopy it from the book and put it in here as well. Again, just to keep my books nice and neat and not stained. Some of them are still a bit stained, but when I started doing this, it made things a lot easier. And also, if I cook a recipe from online and I really like it, I'll print it off and put it in here, and it saves me hunting about for it for ages the next time I want to make it. So it's just a little tip from me. I do a lot of cooking from books, and I find it on the internet, and I find this really easy. Speaking of easy, this is Cook As You Are by Ruby Tando, and as you can see, if you look here, I've got several recipes all tabbed, and there's a big thing in the binding where I've looked at it so many times. This, I think, is a great beginner's book because it has some recipes that are very budget friendly. Some of them are very use unusual ingredients like sauerkraut. I mean, in the UK, sauerkraut is an unusual ingredient, gochujang and stuff like that, but it allows you to kind of get a feel for them without maybe going all out, if that makes sense. So I have tabbed, for example, crisp brown butter beans with garlic, yogurt and tomato sauce, which sounds great. I've not made that yet, but I have made the next one that I tabbed, which is gnocchi with crisp chili crisp oil capers and parmesan. Very delicious, very quick to cook. Now, I am the sort of person that I will be like, do you know what, I think I'll just make my own chili oil just for a laugh, just to see what happens. But she uses ones that you can buy in the supermarket, and you can get capers obviously and stuff, no bother. And then, like, the next one we have is the mushroom and gochujang udon noodles. And also, where the book falls open at that break, is the sour cream vanilla cake. I love it. I've made it so many times. It is dead easy. If you like a Madeira cake, I would definitely recommend trying this. It's like one bowl, so easy to make. And also, if you don't want to go all out and use butter, remember that you can use like the supermarket margarine spreads for stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't recommend using it for, you know, baking croissants or something, but if you're making like this or school cake or something like that, use that, and it's so much cheaper than using like 250 grams of butter in the one recipe. So I really do love this book, and Ruby Tando is a really great advocate, I think, for eating your food, enjoying it, and not taking things too seriously, which I think is great. And she also has a couple of baking books and stuff like that as well. So definitely recommend this if you've got somebody that's, say, moving out to go to uni, or they're just getting their own flat or something like that. This or one of Jack Monroe's tin can cookbooks would probably be a great present for them. And also, I would follow Ruby on Twitter as well. She's really nice. And just as an aside, one of the other things I really like about this book is it actually doesn't have photographs, which I think if you're just starting out, and like me, my presentation skills are not great. Like, I can cook, but putting it on the plate and making it look good, I'm not very good at it. I always sympathise with the MasterChef contestants that are like, oh, I cooked this and it tastes beautiful, but it looks rustic. That's me. And I think it's great that this doesn't have any fancy pictures, because I think it removes some of that anxiety about how the food looks. So that's just my 2 cents, but I definitely love this one so much. I've mentioned it before. So I'm going to talk next about 2 books that are largely based around baking and bread. And the first one is Bread, Toast, Crumbs by Alexandra Stafford. And this is all based on a no-knead bread recipe that Alexandra Stafford came up and published online. It was a big, huge hit. And she has this whole book just based on bread, what you can do with bread, basic bread recipes. I think it's a great place to start. I've bookmarked this with embroidery floss because that was all I had to hand at the time. Can you tell? So this is the basic no-knead bread recipe, and it's got really easy ingredients. You know, it's nothing out there. The technique is super easy. I think it's a great place if you want to bake a basic white loaf. And then obviously she goes on to more, complicated uses of the dough. Like, she uses the dough to make pizza. She uses these buttermilk pull-apart rolls, which I am going to make because I make my own butter sometimes, and when you make your own butter and you're doing the double cream, the liquid that's left over is buttermilk, so you can use that in like these buttermilk pull-apart rolls or in pancakes or something like that. And also she's got other things like the cabbage soup with Gruyere toasts, cinnamon sugar monkey bread, pumpkin bread. Some of it is, you can tell it's an American book. Some of the flavour combinations are very American. I think a lot of things with pumpkin always strike me as quite American, but also loads of things with like roasted garlic and halloumi and stuff. Soppressata, provolone and peperonata sandwiches just sounds good to me. And I have made this bread. It is a good recipe. It's pretty foolproof and also easy to do. It doesn't have a lot of kneading, and if you don't have like a stand mixer, it's also easy to do. I do have a stand mixer, I'm quite lucky. So I find making bread, sorry, I love these little things for having my glasses, and then these little rainbows, bright colours, just love it. I think this is a great place to start if you're wanting to get into more bread and you don't want sort of the faff originally of sourdough. I mean, I love to do sourdough, but not everybody has the time and not everybody has the energy to keep feeding a sourdough starter. Sometimes you just want bread, you don't want all the extra about it, you just want to use store-bought yeast. I mean, this is halloumi and bread skewers with banya cauda. Now, I'm not a big fish fan, I don't like fish, but I have been known to not mind an anchovy in a sauce, like Caesar salad or something, and this has the banya cauda recipe and the bread. So I bought this on a whim and I have not been sorry. There is quite a lot of recipes online using this bread book, and I would remind you that you don't need to bake it in bowls like suggested in here. I use a bread tin, I was going to say bread basket, but that's not it. I use a bread tin. You can use a bread tin too. I wouldn't worry too much about it. So yeah, definitely a good one. Loving it so far. I've made the bread quite a few times and I'm going to branch out and make, I really do want to make that banya cauda and halloumi recipe. I've got halloumi in the fridge, so just maybe need some anchovies. Might be going to Aldi for some anchovies after this. And then I also have been working quite a lot with Mooncakes and Milkbread by Christina Cho. Now, on Spotify, I listen to a podcast. It's called the Milk Street Podcast. And it's a guy called Chris Campbell. He used to work with America's Test Kitchen, but doesn't now. So he started this new organisation, cooking school, whatever. And he was talking to Christina Cho about this book. And I went online immediately afterwards and bought it, because it just sounded so good to me. And I am lucky enough in Glasgow that in Saracen Street, near where the Royal Opera practice studios are, there's a Chinese bakery just across the road from that, which also has a Peking duck place right next to it. So crispy and so good. But I have had tried things like the pineapple buns and stuff at this other Chinese bakery, and also they supply baked goods to loads of the different Chinese supermarkets in Glasgow. The Asian markets, the sort of pandan Swiss roll cakes and all that kind of stuff, really great. And I did make the milk bread pretty much immediately after I got this book. It tastes so good, and honestly it makes, like, what do you call it, French toast. Oh, the French toast was stunning. And also I really want to make the pineapple buns. I've not put my bookmarks in this one yet because I was kind of like, I just want to make everything, just want to try it. I did buy mooncake molds, so I am going to try and make the honey pistachio mooncakes, I think, because they look really good to me. I'm not a massive fan of the red bean curd the sweet red bean paste that's quite popular in Asia as like a dessert. It's not really my bag, but I think it's one of those ones that you would probably get used to. Your palate might adjust a little bit because I think a lot of their baked goods are significantly less sweet than Western baked goods in my experience so far anyway. But I also made, because I was having blood sugar, low blood sugar, and I actually made the milk mixture for the Hong Kong milk tea, the Li Cha, and kept it in the fridge. And when I was having low blood sugar, I just went in and had a cup of tea because it's got like condensed milk and all that in it, so it's great. And I would definitely buy it if you can get a copy of it. It does tend to be out of stock on Amazon fairly often. And also if you like bao buns, all that kind of stuff, there's good recipes in here. And also for some Chinese style celebration cakes, which tend to, at least from what I can see, use a more chiffon cake texture. And they also use quite a lot of like tapioca starch and things like that as well. And oh, I bought a waffle maker because I want to make the waffles in here, the bubble waffles, and I haven't done it yet. I keep saying that I will, but I haven't yet because I had like ready-made pancake mix that I wanted to use up first. But I will. And as soon as somebody else is here that likes sweet things as much as me, my husband's not a big fan of like sweets, so I tend to do a lot of sweets baking when I've got family coming over or when my best friend is up from Leeds, because she likes a sweet thing too. She is. So this is a bit of a basic one, I suppose. This is Joshua Weissman, an unapologetic cookbook. At the moment, I think Joshua Weissman has the most followers out of any chef on YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong. But his series, like, but cheaper and but better and stuff like that. Like, I know people on TikTok, there's been kind of a little bit of backlash about, like, of course you can make something better if you've got 3 hours and, you know, whatever, and better than fast food. I would argue that's not entirely the point. The point is that, you know, sometimes you want to have that experience, but you don't want fast food. Like, you want the idea of what the fast food is. You want the picture of the burger. You don't want the actual burger, if you get what I mean. So I have cooked a couple things from here already. The pesto gnocchi was very good. I'm really looking forward to making the pretzel sticks because I don't get to eat pretzels a lot. And there's quite a few different bread recipes. A sourdough starter from scratch if you want to be bothered with that sort of stuff. And also a sort of more, I would say more complicated shoyu ramen. Like, as in you make your own broth from scratch, which, you know, you can do, and it's more of a project than something I think that you would do all the time unless you ate ramen like 2 or 3 times a week. Would you really bother to make your own broth all the time? I would argue most of us don't always have the time for that. But, you know, it's a good maybe Saturday project. And also there's other, again, quite some of the more American tastes, I would say. But I honestly really like it. I saw there's a girl on YouTube called Grace Booth, Crackle, and she did a day where she cooked all Joshua Weissman recipes, and one of the things was the cinnamon rolls, which I think I will try to bake. But again, I will need to have access to someone else that will actually eat the cinnamon rolls. My husband doesn't like cinnamon, so I would end up eating all the cinnamon rolls myself, which is just not, it's not healthy. Let's be honest, I would love to do it, but, and I always think, oh, I'll do it and then I'll freeze them, but I never do. So I'm just not going to lie to myself. It's just not going to happen. So these two, this one I bought it based on looks. I can't lie to you, it's Carpathia by Irina Georgescu, and I do really like this. I really do like Eastern European food, and some of the ingredients, they do tend to be a bit easier to get because of the sort of big Polish and Romanian population. You do get quite a lot of their food in supermarkets, and also there's like Polish shops and stuff. I've always lived near Polish shops. When I lived in Aberdeen, there was like 4 in my street, and also, you know, if you get off the bus in Glasgow Southside, just take your pick. So this is really good for that, and I really do like the bread recipes. Again, I talk about bread recipes all the time because I'm obsessed with bread, as I think many people are. Like, I saw a thing, where was it? It was on one of the news sites, and it was a guy who, they'd done the archaeology dig at one of the camps, the towns that surround like the building of the pyramids and big Egyptian monuments, and they'd excavated like a vessel, I believe, and it had like this yeast strain in it, like this ancient Egyptian yeast strain, and they cooked bread from it with, like, I think it's kamut flour or teff, one of those, the ancient grains anyway, and it was like, you know, this is what bread tasted like, and etc. And I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting. I would love to try that someday. I wish you could, you probably can, but it would be really fun to like buy an ancient Egyptian bread strain, you know, just for fun. And like, this has like Moldovan polenta cakes with cheese and dill, and it also has, you know, good salads as well, which is quite good, like lighter bites as well, not all heavy like dumplings and stuff. I mean, there are some, but not all. So I would definitely recommend this. I haven't cooked that many things from it, but I will, and I have been going through and trying to put tabs in it as well. There's so much food in too little time. 3, 4, 5, 6 cookbooks that I have referred to or thought about a lot over the past 6 months. Some I've used more than others. Some I think will be more useful to me and my style of cooking than others. But all of them I think are worth a look depending on what you yourself like. So yeah. Anyway, I will speak to you all again soon. Mwah. Speak to you later. Bye.